night sectional finals, a couple days away, and we've got a good show on here on to tap tonight. We're going to have Uriah Buchanan, the running back from Snider High School, talk to him a little bit about the season to date, maybe the history around jersey number 1 that Snider Panthers give out yearly after the summer is over, get his take on what all goes into that, as well as their game against Anderson, which they took care of the Anderson High School in their first sectional playoff game. And then Chris Depew coming on a little later on to talk about the Garett Railroaders and the Heritage Patriots, in which they get the big win moving on Doot. And I guess you could say, Mr. Dutkevwicz, that Friday night again gave us a little bit of what we thought, a little bit of surprise, and a little bit of the same old when you talk about Adams Central, and the Jets continue to roll. But again, Friday night, some surprises out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look back at it, first of all, I think a lot of great games. We had a, good one out at Lewis Field. We were at the Lewis East Side semifinal. You had Leo versus East Noble go, a 45-42 field goal to win. You had an upset with Garett beating Heritage. Yeah. We'll talk to Coach Depew later on in the show about that big Friday night for them. So, and then on top of it, you look, no teams left in Class 6A of all of our 3 6A schools have all been eliminated. And so that leaves the 2 5A schools in Snider and Northside who will play for a sectional championship this Friday. And then about one game per class. I think there's 2 in 2A because Bluffton made it as well. But yeah, so really good games, really good sectionals, really good competition. And I think because of that, that's left quite the different group of teams that we have left over. But yeah, some good football on Friday, and now we move ahead to sectionals championship games, which should have some really good pairings and games as well come Friday night.
Yeah, you talked about our game that we had on 1380 The Fan 100.9 FM, as well as Lure's streaming of that game that they got to utilize our audio out at Bishop Luers High School. A game that I think there was a lot of sloppiness to it, in the fact that there was a lot of penalties called. Luers and Eastside both had some critical calls. Game that was very close, 14-10. Eastside had a chance to really win the ball game in some respects, but a throw down the middle of the field in the latter parts of the fourth quarter there was dropped. I mean, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Spalding, but I'm not positive, so I don't want to over elaborate on the drop pass. There's nobody that feels worse today than that Eastside crew that ultimately went into Bishop Luers, played the game that they designed to play, which I think was try to keep Luers off the field as much as possible, which they did in the second half, and really try to establish a run game, which they also end up doing there in the second half with Linker. That kid, for a young kid, even for Davis as well, both those kids, man, their whole team played hard. It was hard to watch in the sense that that they gave it their all, but came up short, 14-10 Bishop Luers. But you can't take away from Luers. Gio, what an electrifying kid he is. He really can make plays. And then, they've got some kids on the outside that I think in some cases, if there was a 3-year starter at quarterback, they would be deadly. McKenzie's just a step away from being really good, and you don't want to forget that he's a youngin' and playing a varsity level sport. So it's an interesting group of nights that we talked about early on in the season on what Coach Lindsay's able to do. And he's done it with that group all the way through last Friday night and now into the sectional championship.
Yeah, for the 5th straight year, that Luers East Side matchup.
Yeah, that's right.
Really the cream of the crop of that sectional, in effect, I would argue, the de facto championship. Luers and Manchester still have to play. Manchester earned their way by beating by winning their game to get to the other side of that bracket, and the way the ping pong balls flew there. But I think, Lures, an SAC co-champion, a team that is really found their footing this year with a great senior quarterback in Cohen McKenzie, and the running game is developed late in the year. And for Eastside, a really good team. We talked about it on last Friday on the high school football tailgate show. The idea that, Alex Brandewy comes in as the first year head coach. They lose a lot to graduation. They've lost a lot in the last 2 years to graduation with some of the players like Laban Davis and that they've had, but they've been able to kind of reload, develop some guys, and bring in a good offense and a stout defense that has really carried them. And so, that 14-10 final, fifth straight year those two teams have met. And think about it, Lincoln Carter, just a sophomore. So that's a name for Eastside that is going to carry the load for the next 2 years for that Blazer team. And they're going to continue to develop new players. And having that full offseason now for Coach Brandewy and crew to really get to know each other and to really get a lot of things ironed out, it should be good, a good Eastside team for the years to come. But yeah, that was a great game out there. And really it was about tempo to start because it was a lot of running, and a lot of 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And it, one of the few grass fields in our area now. But I think ultimately, Lures proved to be, they were a little bit bigger in their secondary than the wide receivers and things like that. So I think that helped them as long ways. But I think those are pivotal matchups that come along the way in these sectionals. And I think both teams showed that they had a really good year. And unfortunately for Eastside, it's over. And for Lures, they get to march on and go for, I think, sectional number 27, I think, is what they're going for this coming week all time.
Well, and then the other game you talked about real quickly, the Leo Lions and the East Noble Knights in a slugfest, a game that early in the season was a 14-7 nail biter, turned into a 45-42 win, with Leo kicking about what was about a extra point type of field goal to win it as time went out. But again, the names that pop up big on the night for the Leo Lions: Brock Scott, four receptions, 126 yards, his longest of 71. And then the other gentleman that we've talked about before, Caden Hurst, had 7 targets, 63 yards. But Landon Hepner, a junior, over there, and Hepner is the name that a lot of people would be familiar with. He had 2 big receptions for 70 yards along of 54. But overall, Kyle Decker, 14 of 18 on the night, 242 yards. Just an outstanding game on both sides of the equation there at Leo. I'm sometimes disappointed in the fact that we're not able to get out there, just from the standpoint, it's logistics. It has nothing about what we would like to do or cover on a Friday night. There was a lot of interest in that game. Unfortunately, because of the setup there, they can only handle so much. Yeah. And it wasn't like they wouldn't have given us an avenue to explore that.
Yeah.
But it just is logistically not workable in the equation with equipment and what the elements could do to potentially it raining and things of that nature. So it has nothing to do with 1380 The Fan or Leo as it pertains to being able to go out there and cover a game. It just doesn't work in the framework that we would like to have it work. And that's why we weren't able to cover it. But boy, what a game. I mean, we can talk about it later, but you're not going to get a better game on a Friday night than Leo and East Noble.
Yeah, well, it goes to show, like we talked about, that entire sectional 4A sectional 19 with Dwanger and Wayne and Leo and East Noble. New Haven took it on the chin that week one. Like, there are surprises that come out of it. I don't think this one was surprising in the sense that, Leo beats East Noble or East Noble beats Leo, where it comes down to a field goal, or they both scored in the 40s. I think, that's kind of what we expect with that loaded sectional. And now we get Dwanger versus Leo this coming Friday. And that should be a great one too. A clash of styles, like two really good teams within different conferences that have not
Is
played each other a
is that
lot.
at Leo or is that at Dwanger?
It is at Dwanger. So
It
yeah,
is
that's
at
part of the
Dwanger.
logistics this week too, just because part of it too is with the IHSAA is media outlets have to go through the IHSAA to get approval. They can't just show
Right.
up on Friday night and say, "We're here, let us record a game."
Right.
So, part of that is, and Brett Rump on the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan will have more details on where exactly our 1380 The Game of the Week will be come Friday. We're still working out those details, but there's Northside Snider, there's Leo
Yep.
Dwanger, Bluffton and Madison. No, Adams Central plays Madison Granite on the
Right.
road, but Bluffton hosts a game, a sectional championship. So Garett hosts Muncie Delta. So
Right.
there's 4 games in our area that are really good communities to go visit and go see, and teams to see that we could do. It's just a matter of how many allotments they have, but that's all logistics that people don't know necessarily need to know all about. But the point is, we're up to sectional championship mode, and it should be a great Friday night again of more high school football, and we're looking forward to it across the board.
Well, let's talk to our first gentleman of the evening. Proud wearer of number 1 of Snider High School, a gentleman that's done quite well this year, Mr. Uriah Buchanan. Uriah, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing good. How about y'all?
I'm doing fine.
Great.
The first thing that I wanted to ask about, and I would love for you to kind of, I guess, talk to our audience that watches us on Wednesday nights. And the number 1 jersey at Snider High School has a special connotation to it. And it's just not something that you'd say, hey, give me jersey 1, right? It's something that you have to get bestowed upon you by the coaching staff there at Snider. So kind of talk about, the number 1 jersey and how that is earned at Snider High School.
The number 1 jersey has been in Snider. It's been a Snider tradition for a long time. It's given to the hardest working senior who works the hardest from the end of the season in the previous fall and going into the summer and then start of the new season and things like that. So really, to earn it, you got to just be the hardest working guy there. You don't let anybody outwork you, or don't slack off in drills and weight room and things like that.
So that was something that was given to you prior to the start of the year. Probably you weren't aware that it was coming your way until Coach Tippmann made that announcement, I'm assuming, right? So, you earned the jersey number 1. A lot of really good Snider Panthers have wore that throughout the years. So there comes a little bit of a burden carrying that number as well, doesn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So it's not all easy peasy as it pertains to that tradition and how that all comes about. But I think that's a unique thing that Snider does as it pertains to jersey numbers and things that in some ways I wish I would have done when I was a coach and not just allow different numbers to go to different guys because they want it. But let's talk about it. Friday night, Anderson, you guys, I'm sure Coach Tippmann at the start of this past couple of weeks has talked about, hey, this is a team that you guys should beat. But if you give them any type of hope, if you give them any inch, they'll take it a mile. Talk about the frame of mind that Coach Tippmann really preached to you guys through over the last couple of weeks with the bye week and then leading up to this week on last Friday night.
He kind of just told us we got to come out hot. We can't, especially us as an offense, we got to come out hot. We can't come out, stagnant and not moving with a sense of urgency. We got to be able to execute our plays and get first downs and things like that. And so he kind of just all week and all bye week and all this week, he told us to just, do what we got to do to, win and not give them the time of day.
Sure. Uriah Buchanan, Snider running back, joining us. Uriah, another great season for Snider. This has kind of become your backfield from the running standpoint. I know, Langston Lavelle graduated. You kind of move up and take over that lead role. You're a first-team all-conference selection for the SAC. Just talk about your growth and development the time you've put in at Snider High School to get you to this point where now, you're a 1,500-yard rusher as a senior, and leading the Snider Panthers as the number 1 jersey, leading them into the state playoffs, and really finding success all year round for as an entire team.
It's a lot of, hours and hours spent, watching film or being in my backyard, doing drills and just doing the best I can to get better so I can put my team in positions where we can, win games and, move on and advance in playoffs and things like that. So it took a lot of dedication and something that I'm grateful for, to be able to be put in this position, seeing how Langston, carried it last year and be able to be, a part of that as well. It kind of just helped me a lot.
Your game, what stands out to you as far as a running back and your development at that position that makes you such a great player and makes you an all-conference selection as a senior?
I would say, getting in between the tackles, being able to move through between the tackles and, break tackles and things like that, kind of just that's something that I really focused on, to be able to get past that front line and also, be able to be elusive, getting past, linebackers and secondary and things like that.
Yeah, and you talked about it, the offensive line play. Those guys, give you the gaps. Just talk about that group. How close you are with those guys, and really how special of a relationship that has become for you and the guys up front blocking for you.
It's a very special relationship. I love those guys. Being here since my freshman year with those guys, Carter Wilson, Sam Haxton, he didn't really play much last year, but, he comes in and he's here now. Powell, first year started last year. And then, Dotson, just us coming together. There's times where in the summer we're all hanging out, stuff like that. And even now we continue to hang out. It starts with them, really. Our success starts with them. So, we say O-line heart and soul for a reason, because they're really the heart and soul of our offense. Being close with them has helped. At the end of this season last year, I was like, you know what? My O-line, these guys, I know they're gonna risk it all and block for me. So I'm like, we can do things. We can break the record together. Like, it's not just me, it's them as well. There's other guys blocking for me up front. So, it's a very special bond with them. I love those guys to death. And I wouldn't, exchange it for anything in the world.
Uriah, let's talk a little bit about what's ahead of you guys here coming this Friday. It's a little unique. There was only 3 teams in your particular sectional. One team drew not only the bye the first week that sectionals open, but also this past week, and that was the Northside Legends. And they've been sitting idle now for 2 full weeks, and I'm sure they've been preparing for Snider Panthers. And what, kind of what do you take from them watching some film, perhaps, but even the last couple of years, because you guys have had some dogfights of games with them?
They got some players, they got some guys that be able to do, very special things. And so as far as, looking forward this week in film and things like that, kind of just focusing on the things that matter, focus on, executing my plays to my best ability. It's going to be an emotional game, as it's been in the past few years playing against Northside. It's always going to be, competitive, and, they're always going to play their best. So, I can only, for me, my job, the only thing I can do is do my best and, bring it. Because
yeah, looking at some highlights from last year's game. What do you, you guys are the SAC champions again. The schedule this year, how did that prepare you guys for, this postseason part? Because we've talked to Coach Tippmann, who has said, it's very important to win SAC, no doubt, but part of it is having that success late in the year. You guys get to semi-state a year ago. You get off to that hot start, beating Warren Central, beating an East Noble team. Carroll along the way. You get tripped up against Homestead, but still a conference championship co-share. Just that schedule, the new schedule. You played 3 years of the old traditional SAC. This year, stepping outside and playing 2 non-conference games. How important was that for the Snider team as they go through the tournament?
It kind of just in the beginning, it helped to see where we're at and where we could be as far as potential wise. You know, the Warren Central game was really. I came into that game with no expectations. You know, kind of just this is like it didn't really affect our conference or anything like that. So we just came into that game with no expectations, and you know, being able to come out with the win in the way we did, it showed us like you know we can actually do what we said we were going to be able to do, and you know it plays a big part in you know the playoffs and the latter season because it's just you know it's like you know we prepared for it with the way we prepared for Warren Central. We're going to be able to prepare for it you know later on in the semi-state and the state championship and all that kind of stuff like that.
Uriah, what, you know, going into this next week, what would your practices look like this next week leading up to Friday night? You know, kind of lay out your practice days and, you know, are you guys working, you know, offense and defense every day of the week, or do you segment it into focusing on one side of the ball versus the other side?
We kind of, you know, do a little bit of everything, focus on, you know, sometimes we have challenge at the end of practice and things like that. Really, we kind of just focus on the things that work and the things that, you know, don't work as far as, you know, whether or not we have our, you know, areas where we can get better and, you know, execute this better or take this step better and things like that. So we kind of just focus on everything, but at the same time, we do it, you know, in a lot, we get a lot of reps at what we do, you know, because it helps us prepare for when we're in the, you know, it's crunch time and we got to make a last second play. We got to make a play to win the game. And it's like, you know what, we've been doing this all week in practice. We should be able to do it in the game, you know? So we just kind of do a lot of reps, a lot of repetitions, high intensity repetitions. And, you know, that has been a big part of our success.
And special teams is figured pretty heavily into your, you know, you guys' play. I know it's Friday, the big punt return for a touchdown that kind of got things started. You know, the last thing I kind of want to talk about, and then Doot, you can kind of finish up if you have a couple questions. And we're showing some video here of Coach Tippmann and Coach Ike on the video. Talk about Coach Ike as it pertains to him being around the program. Here's a guy that's won a tremendous amount of games, state championships, but he's still a part of the program, and he's still that charismatic figure along the sidelines. Just talk a little bit about Coach Ike, because he's the one that coaches your guys' offensive line now.
Coach Ike, that's my guy. He, you know, he's kind of like he's like a master Yoda in a sense. You know, he's kind of like a master Yoda. He has a lot of wisdom about the game of football, about, you know, what it takes to win. You know, you can learn a lot from him in being with, you know, given his track record and his experience in, you know, being with high school football and Snider High School particularly. You know, it helps a lot that he's our O-line coach, you know, so.
Yeah.
Well, we want to get him on upon further review. I don't know if we can pay him as amounts that his agent's requiring. So maybe you'll put a good word in for us on this week coming up.
I got you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Uriah, we appreciate you coming on tonight, joining us here on Upon Further Review to talk about the Snider Panthers and their season and looking ahead to the sectional final against Northside on Friday. And congrats on the great year, getting the #1 jersey at Snider. I know that's a big thing. And also best of luck the rest of the way. We certainly will be watching Friday night, and we will be following whatever happens the rest of the way for this Snider team that is #2 in Class 5A, trying to get back to the state finals again down in Indianapolis. Thanks so much, Uriah. Best of luck, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right. Uriah Buchanan, the talented running back senior from Snider. And, you know, he talked about his offensive line. He talked about, you know, Coach Ike still being around. That is a huge deal for that team, because
Absolutely.
in the world we live in where coaches come and go, maybe not as much as high school as in college and the NFL, but, you know, to have somebody like Coach Ike, who was, you know, a state championship coach in the 90s, come back, He was an athletic director there for a while, retired, but still as an assistant coach for Kurt Tippmann, who played under him in some respects as when Ike was an assistant to Mike Hawley, and then well, actually the timing would have been Tippmann would have been a player and Ike was the head coach at that point. But anyway, the longevity of that program, the history of that program, and the great running backs that have come out of that program as well. Uriah Buchanan is just the latest of that.
Yeah, he fits the Von Dunbar code of type of a running back of 1,500 yards and 8.2 yards a carry. He's just a tremendous running back. But I got some video of this game on Saturday or Friday.
Yeah,
just kind of showing some of the big clips and the big runs. This was the punt return that got Snider off and going as their defense really dominated that first series, and then this big touchdown run that started the game. And it there's Logan, the big time DB baseball player, leading the way for a touchdown. And you got to look at it all. Kieran Billingsley, the year that he's had to date. Here's a kid that first time starter, but played several snaps a year ago, and his development as a top rated quarterback. I mean, they've got so much talent, even on the outside. It's scary what this team could potentially do, especially like Coach Tippmann says, you got to be able to run the football. And here's their power play. They love to run. And, he's a type of back that you give him an inch and he's going to take it a mile, type of running back that has all the assets that Snider likes in a running back: strong, big, and can make things happen. But the Snider game, even though they were probably playing a little bit lesser of talented team, they just show why they like to do the things they do. Not very complex offensively, as you can tell there, Eric. Very simplistic in their approach, and they can hit you in all types of forms. And this was the big touchdown pass that, kind of led to their 35 to nothing first quarter lead for them. And they just executed at a high level Saturday. And, it's one of those things that when you talk about the Snider Panther, and you've been around the program as long as you have, being that you went there, and such. You've seen a lot of really good football teams. This is probably one of the better teams I think they've had in a while when you broke it down A to Z, from offense to defense. A very complementary type of football team.
Yeah, absolutely. Very balanced. And I think, Luke Hoppert was the quarterback a year ago. He graduates. So the question became, okay, how was that going to all look? Because you have a 3-year starter in Hopper, set all these records and moves on, and a great kid. Kieran Billingsley comes in, and it's just a different style of play, but it's really fit in well with what Snider's able to do with the balanced attack. Because, a year ago you had kind of the two-headed monster with Langston Lavelle and Uriah Buchanan. Langston graduates. You had Dialcavone Veazey, who transferred out. So it became the Uriah Buchanan show in that regard. But then you sprinkle in the ability for Kieran Billingsley to get it done on the ground and through the air. And they've got a really good, and that stout Snider defense. Their secondary has been tremendous with Brandon Logan, Levi Overhoser, who battled injury at the end of the season, Luke Rohrbacher at linebacker. The line play, I mean, you got somebody like Ethan Dodson playing both ways. He's heading to Air Force. So you've got D1 quality talent on that Snider football team on both sides of the ball that really can change the game. And I think that's what's great to see for those guys. And a lot of football to be played. They play Northside again. That's no sleeper of a game where you walk through it. They're going to be ready for that. They got to get ready for that. Northside will come ready for that as well. And that's that's where you are at this point of the year. You win and move on in advance. And, Snider is number 2 in Class 5A, one of the top teams in the state, high expectations every year. And that's starting to bear out for this Panthers team.
And, perfect segue into this segment as well, because another coach that's done quite well in multiple high schools. He's back home at Garett High School, head coach of the Railroaders, Coach Chris Depew. Coach Depew, appreciate you coming on further review tonight. And, what better way to do it than coming on after a huge win over Heritage Patriots on Friday night? I would say most would have think that was probably an upset to a degree, but not for your Railroaders. Talk a little bit about, the kids on Friday night and, getting a very tough, but very sound win against a good Heritage football team.
Well, thank you. It's good to see you again, Coach.
Yeah, good to see you, buddy. It's been a while.
It's I'll say, anytime many people would say you're not favored, one of the worst things you can do as a team is let others make you feel like an underdog. And
right.
Our kids did a good job of knowing the difference between what other people think and our own opinions, and had laser focus and great preparation for the week and played their tails off. And, if I were in your positions, I would have picked Heritage too. I don't blame anybody, but that's how it is. I get it, and that's okay. But we played really sound football, made very few mistakes, tackled well, covered kicks, all the little things you got to do to win a game like that. So our kids played and did it right.
Well, you shut down probably one of the better players in the area, the Kobe Meyer kid. That's a tremendous talent. I mean, what he did this year as the quarterback and some other things for them, he was kind of their everything there at Heritage for Coach Kolkman. And you guys just seem to have a really good plan to counter what he was able to do.
Yeah. Thanks. We did have multiple facets, I guess, to the plan. They have so many different formations, and that by itself is a lot of work. And then you have to defend an athletic quarterback who can run and throw. So, they have great offense designed around that kid. It takes advantage of all the tools they have on that team. And so, and such an experienced team too, 28 seniors or something like that. I mean, they were, they're a fantastic football team. So anyways, shutting down the quarterback, I don't know if we shut him down, but we definitely slowed him down enough to keep them out of the end zone all but one time. Our defensive backs are relatively athletic and probably where our most experience comes from. We aren't a real experienced team, or at least not very old. We only have about 4 starting positions that are occupied by seniors. And for the most part, we're juniors and sophomores after that. So we've still had our own growing pains this year. But the defensive backs had a lot of experience last year. And so we were able to run a couple of different coverages and disguise them a little bit to help defend their pass game. And then I was worried about our front 7 against their offensive line. We're not real big either. Yeah, but they held their own, and our linebackers are quick, and so they read well and got to the ball.
I would say so. 3.6 yards is was Heritage's rush average on the night. You held Kobe to 13 of 24 in the passing game, which was another big statistic, only 90 yards. And it would seem that I think you guys had 3 interceptions. Is that correct? Yeah. So that became a huge factor in that game, was turnovers.
And you could tell, at least from where we were sitting, you could see they were starting to get frustrated. And, that's what you're going for, obviously. And our offense did a pretty good job of playing keep away as well.
Yeah.
We're not super explosive. That's really been our attempt in most games this year, was to not let the kicking game hurt us, or find advantages at least. Not give the game away on offense and eat up clock, and then really let the defense play. So all those fell into place Friday, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Garett head coach Chris Depew joining us upon further review tonight. Coach, they talk about playing your best football late in the season, tournament time. You guys are playing really good. 3 straight wins, 3 straight games on the defensive side of the ball, allowing 7 points, and then 6 against Heritage on Friday. That aspect, just talk about the growth of your team this season, and really how you've been able to find them playing their best football late in the season.
Yeah, like I said, we are somewhat young, and so young teams do that a lot anyway. You hope every team you coach is better at the end of the year than they were at the beginning, but young teams have a higher ceiling to do that. And so our kids have grown. A lot of these guys started last year as 9th and 10th graders, really. So now the bulk of them are sophomores and juniors. And so, they're still at times, not physically superior to who they're playing against. Sometimes when you have a young team, you notice, I always joke, you see more bikes in the bike rack than cars in the parking lot in front of the blockhouse, or the locker room. So we've seen more cars now, so we've gotten older. But they, our linebackers, we don't have anybody that's more than 170, 180 pounds that play linebacker. I think we really only have probably 1 or 2 people on the front 4 that are over 200 pounds too. So our defense has really grown a lot. And Coach Brody Dixon is our defensive coordinator. He's had some really good plans the last few weeks, especially, and definitely had one for Heritage.
Sure. The long-term development of this program, this is year 12 for you. Kind of 500 amongst that time, 500 time. But for you, just where this program is and how much you've been able to build it. You're also the athletic director. I'm sure that presents some fun challenges as well, particularly during football season. That aspect of it, just coming into Garett, being there a long time now, just that community support and really what you've been able to build there. How fun it's been to see some of the success of the Railroader program.
Well, this is my hometown. So it was here that I really decided I wanted to be a coach. I didn't go play anywhere in college. So as an IPFW student, early in college, I really missed football, and our head coach at the time was Rick Kirkton, and he let me come back and just coach some middle school football because I missed it so much. And within a year or two, I changed my major to education, and then decided I want to be a football coach. And so when you make that decision, you always have a dream job, that one you would leave anywhere to go. And for me, it was, here in my hometown. But then my first teaching job was really at East Noble High School. And so I became an assistant there, and I thought that would be a short-term thing really at the time. And then grew there into larger roles, and eventually was the head coach there for 11 years. And by then I thought I would never leave until the combination of jobs opened here 12 years ago, like you said. So this is the only place I would have left for, from East Noble to go. So it's been, but my time here, we had a pretty decent start. It's been peaks and valleys, I'll tell you. And what I have learned is I really believe it is harder to coach football at a smaller high school than it is at a bigger one. Bigger school, you've got, there's more kids, so more sets of parents and things like that. But at a smaller school, your talent dips and comes back at times, and you have to really change X's and O's more than you ever thought you would, just to make it suit who you have in that cycle. And so we made some good decisions. Probably a couple I would have go back and change now. But it's nice now that we're, got back to some winning ways this year and sitting in a position that I haven't been familiar with here in 6 or 7 years. But, I've been in the position in the deep playoff runs at both schools now that I hope I know what it takes and I can help lead these guys another week at least.
Yeah, Chris, now that, you're beyond Heritage, that was a game that, brought a lot of extra, I guess, weight to the plate because of who you were playing. And now you've kind of slayed the giant, so to speak. So now we're going to give you Delta.
There's more than one giant in this tournament, I think, because man, Delta and Yorktown both play in a really tough conference. I mean, they're playing Mount Vernon and New Pal every year. And
I know.
Those are elite programs.
And when you think about it too, Delta, and I go back to my association to Muncie, being at Ball State for the number of years that I was there, and coached by the name of Grant Segunda, and before that, Hepner. I can't remember the guy's name now. It's a space in me, but
well, I'll tell you, 2 assistants on Delta's staff are both named Lynch. So
yeah.
Those are familiar names.
Yeah.
But they're a storied program. And this year, I think they come in 7-4, if I'm not mistaken, into this next sectional playoff game, championship game. But you have them at home. That's got to give you a little better, feeling as it pertains to what you got coming in. But you got them coming into the Railyard. Talk about, what you expect from Delta and the atmosphere that you're going to see in a small town high school football game. That we get to experience sometimes by going to East Noble and, calling some of those games. It's just a unique experience for the kids. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about what, Friday night can be for you and your kids, and not only that, but the town of Garett.
Yeah, I think some of the things I'll say to the kids tomorrow is I would venture to say that a lot of the players on Delta's team have no idea where Garett is. They know we're in the same sectional. They've seen our name, but they may not know where this town is. They have an hour and a half drive for a 7:30 start. They're going to see probably grass for the natural grass for the first time this season. I believe they played every game on a.
Probably won't mow it this week.
No, it might rain in Garett more than other places in Northeast Indiana too.
I won't tell all the secrets.
No, it's our field's a little beat up. I mean, man, I went out yesterday to take a look, and you can tell, it's week 11 or whatever we're in, 11, and so it's like every natural grass football field this time of year. So. I think that'll be the first they'll see, and hopefully they got really short cleats, and they're sliding all over because Delta has some speed, and a big offensive line and a lot to worry about there. But I hope when they get here, they see a small community excited about football. I can already tell, and you know how it is. You get more text messages and well wishes these weeks than most of the rest of the year. So I kind of have a feeling there's going to be some people that intend to come watch. And we're really looking forward to that. Our kids have not had much buzz made about them. And we haven't given reason for it either so much. And so now here we are. I think we're the only team north of Fort Wayne or past Leo that's still in. So, maybe even other people would want to come see a game. So I'm hoping there's a big group, a big crowd there. I would imagine Delta will travel well and bring their people up here too. And those environments, I'm just happy our kids get to experience, that kind of environment. It's just different playing, coaching and playing football in November. And we definitely, though, aren't going to behave in a way like we're just happy to be here.
Absolutely.
Everything we are doing was with the intention of winning this game. But whenever we are done, we'll be able to look back, if it's this week or some other time, and know that our kids experience something that they hope for when they get involved in this game.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, we wish you the best of luck this weekend, this Friday night, as you guys host Delta from the Muncie area in the sectional championship game. Best of luck to you and the rest of the Railroaders, and we'll be watching and talk to you down the road.
Appreciate it, guys. Good seeing you. Thanks.
All right. Good luck, Coach.
Thank you.
Alrighty. That was Chris Depew, the head coach and athletic director for the Garett Railroaders. And Coach, that was probably the biggest surprise come Friday night, was that, maybe up there with Warsaw kind of manhandling Carroll, which we could talk about a little bit too. But, for Garett, 6-5, they're guaranteed their first 500 season in 6 years now. So they won, I think they won like 3 of their last 5 to close last year, and they've won 4 of their last 5 this season. So they've been able to find some momentum for that program. Coach Depew mentioned it, young guys. This is a team that we might have to start paying attention to the next couple of years.
Well, the thing about Coach Depew is, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him as a head football coach because of how he goes about his business and how he impacts the kids that are underneath him. And I've had a fortune enough to recruit some kids that have come played for me that have come out of his programs. So that has always been, something that I've always enjoyed, getting those kids that play for Coach Depew. Let's not forget, he left an East Noble job to take over Garett. And, Luke Amstunts has done a good job as well. But that foundation of championship level football and expectation in East Noble, you can trace back to Coach Depew. And that's the one thing that he was able to do at East Noble. He brought a championship culture there. And now he's trying to do it at a tougher school like Garett. And he talked about those struggles of, not quite sure of who you're going to have coming in. I have to say, the bikes in the bike racks versus cars in the parking lot may be one of the better things that I've ever heard from a high school coach. And it makes so much sense when you think about it. So I think in that regard, doing so well there. And I'm happy for a guy like him because he works so hard at it. And I know he gives it all for the kids. And, we've seen some of their games over the years, kind of trickle down. And even when we do our pregame show, and there's something about them at the Railyard, though, that gives that mystique about high school football Friday nights in the town of Garett. If you're going to go to that game, I would suggest you go to any establishment before 6 o'clock, because there's a high probability that the close sign is going to be on the windows downtown in the shops and the local restaurants in Garett heading to the ball game at the Railyard on Friday night.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's unique about our area too, and not just to ours. There's plenty of places across the state that can attest to this. But Fort Wayne got a lot of schools. There's a lot of schools in Fort Wayne, probably like 15 high schools in Allen County alone. Then you get out beyond that, and you start seeing places like Garett, places like East Noble, places like Eastside has been great. Huntington North, their new facilities, when their team kind of gets back up on the right trend, that's going to be a great place to catch games again. So I think that's what's so great about our area, is that we're kind of that blend of a big city like Fort Wayne, but then we got a lot of small towns that kind of, blended in there. And it makes fun because when you get to these sectionals and you have an old ACAC matchup like Heritage and Garett out in Monroeville,
right,
and then you have a sectional championship this coming Friday with Northside and Snider, and on the just not too far across town you have Dwanger and Leo locking up. Like, that's what's really cool, because there's a lot of good football in this area, and ultimately we get some surprises on Friday nights, and that's part of the gig as well.
Well, and one thing, and then we can move on to what we need to move on to here about this. My father was a high school football coach for a many number of years in the state of Indiana, more importantly here in Fort Wayne. Actually started the program at Snider High School back in the 1960s. He was their first head football coach. I didn't know if you knew that or not, Mr.
I
Dutkevwicz.
think I was a little aware of that. Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. But
Bob
since you're
Armstrong?
back in the Army days, that's right. They were
There
all
you go.
together. But my father always told me there is something special about a 1 town high school. And it's because of what appears and happens on Friday nights, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever. It's the support that the local community takes into it. And I think that's one thing that gets kind of mixed up in a big city, those small town schools, and the fan base that is there. It's important to them. It's important to the community. We've seen that up at East Noble. We've seen it at Leo and all these other schools. So that's what makes it unique. That's what makes it all that much more excitement on Friday nights, is because of that. And I think Coach Depew is one of those coaches that just does a phenomenal job, just like Casey Kolkman has done and some of these other coaches. But we've got some really good area schools, and they've really risen up here, probably the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. And I think for Coach Depew, he might be laying the groundwork or trying to get some turf up there.
Well, he may or he may not, because everybody's gone to turf. It may be cooler.
Yeah, that's true.
Be cooler just to have natural grass,
Yes.
but
and there's a heavy agriculture influence up there as well. So
that's
don't
right.
sleep
That's
on
right.
that. I mean, but anyway, so it's great to have him, and we appreciate him coming on. Great to have Garett represented on our podcast. First time in the 2 years that we've been doing that as well. Well, Coach, let's go ahead and look at some of the matchups for this Friday night in the sectional championships here. Really, when it comes down to it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different games involving area teams.
It's amazing how much that's, decreased now since the start of sectionals,
Yeah. And so, and we start at the top and we can work our way down in Class 5A Sectional 12 Championship, Northside at Snider. The old SAC rivalry. These two teams had not played this year based off of the new schedule.
Yeah, that's right.
So an opportunity to play. They've had some barn burners in the last couple of years, and it's not, the Northside team has reeled a little bit. They lose Tay Johnson for the year with injury, and they've kind of had to really do some personnel shifts based off of the guys, like any team would. Jamari Pearson was playing quarterback. They struggled in the beginning of the year with some of the things, but this is still a dangerous Northside team. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for, likely that they were playing for Snider as it was. Now that's definitely Snider. So nothing to sleep past this idea that Northside can come in here and make it a really good ball game with the Panthers.
Well, you're correct in that the last couple of years have been some really tight ball games, first games of the season type of games. Losing Tay Johnson by all means is a big burden for them, but he's been hurt pretty much a big part of the year. So they've really had to orchestrate around that 2 weeks. The positive of that 2 weeks layoff is because of their depth, they've gotten some guys healthier. That's number one. They've been able to really focus in on Snider for 2 weeks. I mean, if I was coaching at Northside, I would have been doing Snider stuff from the time that we got the draw till the start of this week, and making sure that, we had a good plan. Doesn't mean you're going to go out and beat them, but a good plan to take care of what you want to do on offense and defense. The bad thing is 2 weeks off is awful long.
Yeah.
You're talking,
especially in the 3-team sectional.
Exactly. And I know that this all was created when DeWanger was shifted down and the IHSAA decided not to fulfill that sectional with another team, which created somebody that was going to be off for 2 weeks. I would not wish the
Yeah.
IHSA would do that, because it does. And some people say, well, that's a great advantage. They get 2 weeks and they can, like I said, yeah, they can prepare for 2 weeks. They get their kids healed up, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is you got 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, trying to keep them focused on the game of football right now is not easy, even if they were winning, right? I mean, even if they're winning, there's just too many distractions. So, but like you said, it is a game that Snider can't take lightly. They know who they're getting. They know they got talent, and it could be one of those games that if they give them hope, if they give Northside hope, those kids will smell blood and they'll play hard.
Yeah, the Legends 3-6 this year. Their 3 wins: Concordia, Northrop, and Southside. So the 3 of the 5 teams in that B division. Snider's won the last 3 in that series. And interestingly enough, too, with this, it's played at Spooler Stadium. Snider had a home play. Well, technically it was home, but they had to play it at Wayne because Northrop had a home game too. But Northside gets a double bye and doesn't even get to host a sectional.
Yeah, that's
very odd. And I get it, but part of the issue was the Dwenger move. They shouldn't have done that once the season started.
Yeah,
Dwenger was ranked in Class 5A.
Yeah,
and then when they moved them down, that's where we were in the season, and that's not right or fair to anybody. I don't care how good or bad your team is.
I don't know how that happens.
Right.
I really don't. I'm not. I mean, nothing against Bishop Dwenger, and I'm all for enrollment-based divisions or however they do it and such. And Dwenger's, now in 4A, okay, but to do it in the way that it was done was not thought through, like you said, and it also created a situation because it could have been easily Snider waiting for 2 weeks for a game. You know what I'm saying? Or Anderson, right? There was a 30.
And the geography of it. I mean, it's a hard sell on the geography.
Yeah, exactly.
They just have to come up, and Hamilton County in 6A coming, and I get it. There's only 32 teams and 16 in the north, and you have to do what you got to do. But I mean, realistically, and we'll move on quickly, but I looked it up. The difference between Northrop being in Class 6A and Class 5A is 1 student. They have 200.
You're kidding me.
Because, and Indianapolis Cathedral took up a spot too, so there's some shifting there. But I can't remember what the school is, but the 31st biggest school in the state is at 2,080 students. Northrop is the 32nd, I think, or 31st. 30 and 31 plus Indianapolis Cathedral makes out number 32 in the division.
Yeah.
But the 30th team is 2,080. Northrop sitting at 31 is 2,079. 1 student difference. Not that I probably doesn't make a huge difference for Northrop, because if they're in 6A or 5A, I don't think it matters that much. But that's literally, not only should Northrop be in the B division of the SAC, Northrop should be in 5A, but it's enrollment based, and they still got big numbers at Northrop. But anyway, we digress. We'll talk about the teams that are still playing. Moving down to 4A, the big one here, Leo at Bishop Dwenger. Wow, Leo has just 6 straight wins now for the Lions. Since that New Haven loss in overtime, they've been rolling. I mean, 40 spots across the board, the defense. And then Dwenger's that team where they show up when the postseason comes. This should be an old-fashioned one, good game where really tests 2 different styles of play.
Yeah, no question. Leo is back in the sectional championship again. They lost one last year to Columbia City, remember, in the tough game. And Bishop Dwenger's going to give them everything they got, and hopefully that's a game we get to do. I don't know where we're all at with that, but hopefully that's something that is in the works. And then, of course, you got Delta at Garett, which will be another, decent ball game.
Yeah, absolutely. Last time Dwenger and Leo met was 2018 sectionals with the Saints winning there. Leo looking for their first sectional title since 2011. So it's been hard for Leo they're a good team all year long, and then they kind of hit some tough patches there. We talked about Muncie Delta and Garett with Coach Depew. In sectional 35 in Class 2A, we have Bishop Luers at Manchester. Coach, I think this is just the benefit of the schedule for the Knights. They should roll in this one. I said it earlier in the show and said it, the de facto championship, in my opinion, was last week just based off of the teams. But, you still got to play who you got to do. Manchester host Bishop Luers. So Manchester gets the opportunity to play them, and it has an opportunity to win their first sectional since 1991.
Right. Eddie Fields is the head football coach at Manchester. Eddie worked for me over at Manchester University for a couple of years before he headed down south. Came back this year, took over for Alex Brandywee, who went to East Side, and then his old school is getting into the sectional finals. So, again, like you said, playing at Manchester, we'll find out. But you're right, Bishop Luers in this case should be in the top position.
Yeah, absolutely. Eddie Fields, a couple seasons as Southside's coach as well. In 2A 36, the Eastern Comets with a C of Greentown, Indiana. That's in Howard County. They come to Bluffton. Bluffton with the big win 2 weeks in a row. They get Eastbrook last week with a big win over them, and Alexandria the week before. Bluffton really starting to click again, their coach, and we're setting up for potential. We'll talk about this next week as well. A regional of, I think it would be Luers and Bluffton, but Bluffton playing really well this time of year.
Yeah, and if they get to the regionals against Luers, they'll have a chance to, replay the game from a year ago, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken. But their path is not easy. Greentown is going to be a pretty decent ball club if memory serves me correct, but they'll have their hands full, but they got them at home. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Bluffton hosting that sectional against Greentown. Greentown also 9-2.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty good.
2, 3, 4. They've won their last 6. So in a coach that is over 100 career wins in 25 seasons, and Josh Edwards. So that will be a formidable test as well. And the last sectional on our list, Adams Central at Madison Grant. They go on the road. The Flying Jets do to face Madison Grant. The Argyles is their mascot there. Madison Grant down there in the Marion area. And Coach, like I said, Adams Central 11-0. They seem like the team to beat in the northern half, but this Madison Grant team is 8-3 following their sectional wins. A lighter schedule than the Adams Central team, but still a formidable foe that you got to beat with a 5-game winning record.
And a team that plays pretty tough at home, So Adams Central, they are the hunted. They're going to get everyone's A game. And like every week, they're going to have to come to play because that team lining them up across from them is the hunter.
Yep. Madison Grant's 3 losses were Mississinawa, Eastbrook, and Alexandria. So some familiar opponents there too to give that comparison. Well, Coach, we will figure out where we are next week. Tune in to 1380 The Fan, 100.9 throughout the weeks. Brett Rump will have that update. Of course, you can listen to our show in video form on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We put our clips up on Instagram, but you can also listen on Wednesday nights at 8 on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. We appreciate them doing that throughout the rest of the season. And like I said, Coach, a big Friday night of games, and it should be a good one. And we'll keep whittling the field down as we march on towards Lucas Oil Stadium.
Well, Eric, yep, it's been fun, and we'll see wherever we're at on Friday night for the pregame show. For my man, Eric Dutkevwicz, I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith. Thanks again for joining us here upon further review. Good night, everybody.